Dinosaurs could get sick too, and some of them got horribly sick. We all have that one cousin that licked an escalator at the mall and hasn't gotten sick since. If you don't, then you are that cousin. Escalators hadn't been invented yet in the Mesozoic, so dinosaurs didn't have such an easy way to build up immunity to disease. As a result, they experienced the full gamut of illness, including bacterial infections, parasites, arthritis, and severe birth defects, all of which are under the umbrella term disease for this video. If you haven't already, go check out the traumatic injury episode, as well as the worst ways prehistoric animals could kill you. We'll be sorting dinosaurian diseases from the fossil record into tiers based on their severity, analyzing one specimen at a time. For animals that were only inconvenienced by their conditions, we have the Sniffles tier. Individuals that would have needed to significantly adjust their behavior to cope with their illness will be in the call out of work tier. Finally, for truly plagued specimens, we have the man-cold tier. This is a fairly comprehensive pathology list, but I'm sure I missed some things. When you get to the end of the video, drop a comment with your favorite diseased dinosaur and let me know if yours wasn't included. If you find topics like these cool, please subscribe and like the video so I know you're interested. Let's get started. To make things easier for everyone, let's define some key terms you might see pop up. An exostosis, or a bone spur, is a non-cancerous bone growth often following illness or injury. Osteomyelitis is a bacterial infection of the bone itself that can cause severe swelling and weakness. Osteosclerosis is an unusual hardening of bone and results in pain and higher risk of breakage. A lesion is any mass of abnormal tissue, and lesion sounds like legion, which brings us to today's sponsor, Beastlord. Beastlord is an animal-themed strategy mobile game, themed with realistic art and sporting over 500 unique animals you can use in your empire. You can explore the world, defend your territory, and accumulate resources to become the ultimate Beast Lord. I, of course, am specifically referring to the Mega Beast system, a special version that brings ancient apex predators like megatheropods into the game. You can defeat wild creatures on the world map for the possibility of a Mega Beast egg drop, which you can spend worms to hatch in order to receive a random Mega Beast. The Mega Beast roster includes multiple prehistoric animals like T-Rex, Carno, Brachy, Terra, Para, Pachy, and way more. After all, while a game pitting modern animals in empire-based warfare against one another is fun, it just gets better when you can add prehistoric creatures to the arena. This conflict of old versus new can be yours to dominate if you build enough worm farms, which use the honey resource to produce worms. You can use worms to help Mega Beasts progress through the three primary stages: egg, larva, and adult. Once the egg has hatched, you'll know the type of Mega Beast you've collected, and will be able to add it into your empire once it reaches adulthood. There are two types of Mega Beasts: developed Mega Beasts and combat Mega Beasts. Developed Mega Beasts are best used to collect resources to continue to build your beastly empire, while combat Mega Beasts can be assigned to various battlefields in order to protect your interests from other greedy kingdoms. You can send your Mega Beasts on raids to attack enemies and defend your own territory, protecting your right to rule. Use the link in the description and pinned comment to get started playing Beastlord today. Use the code BL777 to get necessary resource supplies for early development. We'll start things off with the honorable mentions. These specimens are mentioned in abstracts for upcoming publications, but don't have a lot of detail known yet, which makes them difficult to rank individually. From SVP 2024, we've got Gorgosaurus specimens with multiple exostoses and instances of osteomyelitis, large premaxillary abscesses in a Pachyrhinosaurus that would have made eating extraordinarily painful, and a large Allosaurus gematsoni with facial infections. Keep an eye out for the full papers in the future. In the Sniffles tier, we have a Poekilopleuron specimen, whose pathological descriptions are older than the word dinosaur. It suffered from an exostosis fusing two vertebrae, a pedal phalanx or toe bone with three exostoses, and a manual phalanx or finger bone with a bony callus. These medical issues were described in 1838. This Centrosaurus specimen had a benign bone tumor, or exostosis, on its ulna. When we say to get swole, this isn't exactly what we mean. A Pachyrhinosaurus specimen suffered from a parietal exostosis, meaning that it had a benign tumor on the parietal bone of its skull. Elemgasem nubilis, an abelosaurid from Cretaceous Argentina, displayed spondyloarthropathy, or chronic joint inflammation, in 5 caudal vertebrae and 3 chevrons. Another abelosaurid from Cretaceous Argentina, Quilmesaurus curii, had some type of pathologic tissue observed in the right tibia, although experts aren't yet certain of the cause or type. It could be traumatic or infectious or something else entirely. A specimen of Aucasaurus, a 4-meter abelosaurid, again from Argentina, had 2 congenitally fused caudal vertebrae. That's moderately inconvenient. Herrerasaurus ishiguatastensis was an early Saurischian dinosaur, also from Argentina, that was morphologically similar to both primitive theropods and primitive sauropods. One specimen displayed osteomyelitis, infection inside of the bone associated with bite marks. Unfortunately, it didn't have access to Triassic dental care. Mapusaurus also represents Argentina. Turns out it's an incredible place for dinosaur fossils. One specimen had a lesion on a cervical neural arch, another a pedal phalanx, and another had an anomalous lesion on its ilium. It could have been cancer, a bone cyst, a parasitic infection, or another unknown factor that caused it. Our last entry in the Sniffles tier is a Stegosaurus with infected thagomisers. This poor critter's tail spike had some sort of condition that caused it to look like melted wax, and it seemed to be spreading to another spike when the animal died. That may have resulted from combat-related injuries, perhaps in defending itself against a theropod like Allosaurus. Now for the call-out of work tier. A Vagaceratops specimen had multiple small cancerous growths scattered across its forelimbs and neck, including 4 fused vertebrae. That would have made movement more difficult, and definitely more painful. But that's not as bad as this Chasmosaurus. It had deformed, severely bent thumbs and metacarpals, along with irregular bone growth on its rib. Considering it was a quadruped that used its metacarpals for locomotion, that really would have sucked. Walking pain gets even worse with this Psittacosaurid from China, which had a severely deformed and swollen fibula, one of the bones in the lower hind limb. Skipping leg day was probably a medical requirement for this particular fellow. Oh look, another Pachyrhinosaurus pathology. This specimen had a deformed cervical vertebra, which would have warped muscle attachment points and likely caused some difficulty with movement. Sauropod pathologies are rare, but when they do show up, they can be gnarly. One Camarasaurus grandis had a humeral exostosis that would have caused severe muscular inflammation on its forelimb. Just a regular muscle cramp is bad enough. And here's another sauropod pathology, which kind of undermines my previous statement. Sauropod ribs from Jurassic China show signs of both infection and osteosclerosis after a fracture. If getting beaten up wasn't bad enough, here's a bone infection for your troubles. Another herbivore, a hypsilophodontidae, had a severe case of osteomyelitis leading to stunted growth in one of its tibiae. I'm frankly amazed it survived long enough with disproportionate legs for the infection to be recorded in its bones. Sue the T-Rex had a fibula with severe abnormal bone growth caused by infection. While the fibula was originally thought to have been snapped, CT scans show no sign of breakage. 2 caudals were also infected. Now onto the truly medically devastated, the man-cold tier. These dinosaurs not only called out of work, they stayed home for the next 3 days eating ramen on the couch and watching the Lord of the Rings extended editions. It's the only method to help a real man truly recover. To nobody's surprise, another Pachyrhinosaurus is the first brave soul in the man-cold tier. This Pachyrhinosaurus had a huge gap in the skull beneath the right orbital, maxillary exostosis, and squamosal lesions. So apart from the abnormal bone growth and infectious markers, a huge chunk of its skull was just dissolved. Gone, missing, and it survived that.
Have you ever heard the Ballad of Big Al?
No.
I thought not. It's not a story the sauropods would tell you. It's a theropod legend. Big Al was actually a fairly small Allosaurus, but suffered so much by the end of his life that his bitterness turned into the dark side. He had such a knowledge of the dark side that he starred in a hit documentary and...
Okay, that's enough. Big Al had a ton of traumatic pathologies, but surprisingly few of them showed evidence of infection. It had infected pedal and manual phalanges, toe and finger bones, some of which seem to have been secondarily infected after traumatic injury. It's a hard enough life. While not identified to the genus level, there's an incredibly infected hadrosaur humerus that held several liters of pus and never completely healed. That, frankly, sounds horrible. The holotype specimen of Dilophosaurus had osteomyelitis in its left ulna and one of its left finger bones. It also had evidence of osteodysplasia, a genetic bone growth condition that warps bone density and shape in the right humerus, the third right metacarpal, and one of the finger bones on its right. If that wasn't enough, there were 3 tumors in one of its radii. Yikes. Centrosaurus returns to the list with an osteosarcoma in its fibula that had been plaguing it for some time. But it didn't die from the cancer. It was found in a bone bed with other Centrosaurus and is suspected to have been killed by a flood. Nothing like living for a long time with hind limb cancer. Then there's Dolly the Diplodocus. This sauropod had a severe respiratory infection that warped the shape of its pleurocoel, or lung cavity tissue, and likely resulted in the animal's premature death by damaging its air sacs. It may have had a fungal infection known as aspergillosis, which still causes severe problems for birds today. Slowly dying thanks to not being able to breathe sounds pretty horrible. The dinosaur that takes home the plague trophy is another sauropod. Ibirania was a Brazilian saltosaurian about the size of a cow. Its relatively small body had a tough time of it though. Ibirania had massive marks inside of its bones that resembled large flagellate protozoan parasites, along with severe osteomyelitis to the point it caused remodeling of the bone surface itself. This is the quintessential zombie sauropod, and makes the Plague of Madness from Primal seem not quite as fantastical as you may have thought. As always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out Beast Lord: The New Land using my link in the description and the pinned comment. If you like dinosaurs and fantasy, you may enjoy being a part of my newsletter, where every few months I send out free short stories set in the paleo-fantasy universe of extinction. I'm the Vividen, and I'll see you next time.